Hola community, how are you? How is it going? It's Monday, it's a Blender.Today live time, number 67. Doesn't matter the name, the number at all. This episode, I'm calling it the community episode. I just got back from London, from the Blender London Day, and it was just amazing. The organization, the meeting with people actually in real life, which happened last year at the Blender conference, but I never get tired of it. So thank you very much to the team for organizing it, Alex, Michael, Kev, but also to the people there and going and promoting this kind of events. I even got some people on Twitter saying like, hey, I didn't know it was going on. So yes, we should talk more about this, the community events, you know, when people get together, the meetups and everything. There is the Blender. I was surprised to know that not a lot of people know the Blender.org/community, which is the official place where we are actually it's under support user communities and /community, and it will just work. And there you can find all the communities that are active at the moment. There used to be a page like this back in the days, but now not anymore because it was super outdated. So I took the time a couple years ago, to make this page, asking the people around to like contribute their communities. They're sorted by language. So the idea is that if you speak your Italiano, for example, you have Blender Oggi, you have Blender Italia. If you speak Spanish, there is Blender Hoy, Latino, a bunch of Facebook group, .blend, and it's just a place where people actually can hang out and see each other making awesome stuff. So yes, thank you, London Blender Day. I'm gonna see next month we're gonna be in Spain, actually, Mundos Digitales, a different conference, and then there is SIGGRAPH in LA. So lots of sharing the love for Blender around. Just a small note, if you have a community, and I still need to add the contact at the end, like, hey, if you want to add something, get in touch with me. Just basically I need the logo and the name and the description, and we can add it there. So the idea is to have everything. I think there is a Slack channel that is pretty popular, and it's not here, for example. A lot of people use Slack, but yeah, I bet we're missing a lot more. So yes, diversity, exactly. That's what we want. That's what we need. The world needs. So everything is okay. Saludos Colombia, Russia, Brazil, everywhere. Brazilian community. Yeah, there is a Brazilian Portuguese. So Brazilian Portuguese. There is Blender Oggi, which is like Blender.Today. Turkey, everywhere. All right, let's get to it. I have a list of some of the updates that went on during the last week, but remember the focus mainly is on bug fixes and the manual. The 2.8 manual keeps being improved. The most of it is done. As you can see, the developers have been doing an amazing job, and they even while writing the documentation, they also found out that there are some menus entries missing, or some were duplicate. Not too many missing, more duplicates. Like with the effort of moving and making 2.8 more less shortcut dependent and adding more of the entries on the menu, sometimes they were twice. So yes, the 2.8 release is going great. I've been working on the Blender.org features page. I'm trying to update it. I added some notes here, by the way, because it's going to be updated. And so if you see this page change a lot, or the release logs page change, it's just keep in mind that we're working on it. For example, the interface part, there is now a note about the key maps, but I only spent like a couple days so far just trying to sort everything out, but I expect these pages to be updated in the coming weeks with awesome stuff. And at some point I might make a call for content, because it would be awesome to have pictures for all the features here. Like, it's super lame that we have so much inside of Blender and this page is not making good justice. So I might ask around. I'm on Twitter and on Instagram if you want to share your stuff, your work, but it's better to do with a call of content for content. That it is. Let's see. I want more hotkeys. Well, one hotkey that was actually we're thinking of adding back, because the community keeps asking for it, and it's super well, it is one of the those classic key shortcuts that were in 2.7. It's the, let's say if you remember by the shortcut, it's a Control Shift C, Control Shift Alt, no, Control, I don't know, Control Shift C, Control C, a lot of keys with C, as in the set origin shortcut. That was it was used so much. There was even a button in the toolbar, so that also got lost. Now it's in the menu, it's in object set origin, but still would be nice to have a shortcut. Problem is, which shortcut? Set origin? Yes, people got it. Boda, great, you found it. And Ryan too. Yes, exactly. The C key was for center because the origin used to be called object center, so having some sort of Control Shift whatever C worked in the past. However, now we don't have the center, the object center anymore, because it's called origin. It's the same, we have the same functionality, but it's called origin. So I was thinking maybe to have the something with the O for origin, so maybe Shift O, which at the moment brings this menu, which is I doubt is so used as often as the set origin. The pie that is being brought here is the type of proportional editing fall off. So I think we could do without, but let me know what you guys think. Shift O maybe for setting the proportional editing fall off. Sorry, to remove this shortcut and replace it with the set origin operator. Any other shortcut that you miss like a lot, like super badly? Let us know. Shift O sounds good, right? Is it possible to disable pies? Yeah, you can disable pies. You have the pie settings in the preferences. There is the input key map, and then you can change what it does. We do for some pies, and then you can disable more pies in the in the add-ons pies. You can enable more, and then you can replace some of them, but like disable completely, I'm not sure, because now Blender is very dependent on those, and it tries to use them in some parts, not everywhere, but yes. Control Shift Alt is legendary. Yes, it is. It's one of the for converting. Yeah, that one too. For adding modifiers, the shortcut also is, I think it's gone. And adding modifiers is something you do all the time. So maybe that would be something to fix. So okay, next let's see the list. Today I don't have a huge list. It's mainly about some little tricks that were done on the interface level. And yes, I know interface UI freeze, but some of them were leftovers from the project that was already starting, like renaming some, like instead of using duplis, use instance and that kind of thing. So for example, this is a nice improvement. It's a change in the UI, but it's a welcome one, which is simply getting the type of force field to show up, like when you add a force field, that to show that it is a force field, instead of just being a regular empty. So that already makes it a bit more flexible, that you can do this kind of stuff. The type of force field is going to show up if you have it on a mesh, for example. It's going to show up here in the list because it shows as a modifier. What else? So for example, if I have a mesh and I add for example, make it a force field, and then make it some kind of force field there, it should show up as a modifier, the collisions here. And then maybe we could show it also the actual force field type. It should be. Next, show label in tool tips. There is an improvement that you might not notice until you notice, which is some of the popovers, these new kind of floating panels that are like drop downs but are more like panels, can have anything inside, that were introduced in Blender 2.8, didn't have a tooltip or a label until a few days ago. There was some limitations in the code, and now they do have. So is it's gonna be a bit more easy to understand, to see. It's gonna use, if it's a label already defined, it doesn't need to show it. But if there's no label, like in this case, when it's hidden, when it's only an icon, it will show the current the name of the label of that operator or panel. Then more on the renaming. Yes, this was as I mentioned before, operators internally. For example, the view when you're drawing a for example, if I'm the camera view and I draw this like to render a region, is now called region render a border. It was like that in the rest of Blender for many months already, but some operators were still calling it region instead of border. The other way around, they were calling it border instead of region. The same for the zoom border, which is weird because you're not zooming to a border, but it was called zoom border back in 2.7, so it's called zoom region. You're actually zooming into a region. Then dupli instance to instance face, that's the same as before. It's part of the project that was happening, like the renaming project that happened, started many months ago. It's just to wrap up those. The area that was that actually changed a bit more, and it's kind of an exception to all of this UI freeze because of there were some changes in the sidebar of the sequencer, and it was just on par with the rest of Blender. So this is the one exception that it's going on at the moment, that is it got changed recently in the last week, during the last week, which is in the here in the sequencer editor. Let me see if I fit everything on the screen here. In the sequencer, so if you have started making tutorials about the sequencer, this might change. This changed in the last week, or if you started making like screenshots or any kind of documentation. So this is the area, but luckily it's not really used that often, still for tutorials. So for example, I have a video here and I have the information of the strip. Now this is very nice. It shows always up here and locked, like always up there, like when you use materials, for example, but for strips. So we'll show the name of the strip. So it's much easier to rename it as opposed to how it was in 2.7, where if you wanted, for example, if you had a video sequence and you had a whatever strip, even a color strip already, you could see that the name was up here, but sometimes you could have it collapse or you could have somewhere else. So you couldn't easily rename the strips. So now you can, because it's always up here. There is even a checkbox to enable or disable, which is like mute. It actually internally is muting the strip, but now it looks more like in the outliner, for example, to checkbox enable or disable. Also, now it shows an icon to see at a glance what is going on. This icon makes it easy to understand. Okay, I have a color selected or text, or it's easy to follow, because sometimes these names can get crazy when you're using images. They get auto-named, for example. The rest should be pretty much there. There's some of the panels were moved around. For example, if you have an image sequence or a video strip, a movie strip, you will find the source, this panel in the top level, where you can at a glance see where it's coming from, and also the resolution. I think this used to be in a different panel with the time code, which was a bit confusing. So these fixes are for the better in general, just trying to make things a bit more easier to understand. So if you're already making tutorials for this, sorry, but it had to be done, and I think it's a great improvement and worth the exception. Actually the sequencer getting way more love than we expected than at the beginning of the 2.8, right? Oh, look at that. This is a time traveling. This is the drawings animatic made by Matias Mendiola on the first Caminandes, or the third Caminandes episode. Wow, I haven't seen this frame before. Awesome. All right, let's move on. Go away 2.7. You look faglier by the day. Every time there is new changes, you have to go back to 2.7. It looks like everything's so randomly placed. But it's not randomly. There were some of the things were not too randomly placed. There were just too many and not a lot of thinking into where to place them. So yes, that's what happens. Let's move on. The file selector got some improvements. The file browser, if this is a feature that I didn't know I was missing. It's the selection operator in the file browser. For example, when you're browsing any kinds of file, or in the future asset manager, maybe, that there was no option to select, to deselect or invert the selection. So now there are. Now you can do, you can select everything with you can deselect everything. Why can I select? So if you select, you can deselect with Alt A, and just to match what is in the 3D viewport. And you can also do Control I to invert. So Control I should invert the selection of your whatever you have selected. Then, which for some reason wasn't working right now, but I've seen the commit, so must be there. The other small thing that changed is the gizmos turning on and off, and this is now it used to be the shortcut that used to be assigned. It is assigned. It's Control tilde, and it used to toggle only the current the transform gizmos. And in order to make it a bit more consistent and to make it also work, for example, for object gizmos. So if you have the camera and this gizmo, the one that allows you to set the lens here, you would the zoom basically of the camera, it can also be hidden with the same shortcut. So you can use one, and if you're not using the gizmos here, you will also here, for example, you can also turn it on and off. So if you don't have that's a nice thing, is that if you don't have the transform, I think even the spotlight should have it. So for example, these gizmos, you can also now turn them off with a shortcut. So we gain a bit more interaction with the shortcuts. Hey Pablo, will there be overrides in the new view layers? Yes, for 2.81, that is the goal. The project has already started, but it was a bit too much to put it in 2.80. So I will ask you to ask the questions in Blender.Today. This thread, nicely done by Karek. Thank you very much. Oh, actually there's two threads. Oh my gosh. This correct setting up a thread for Blender.Today. So this was 4 hours ago, and it was 20 minutes ago. So I will try to follow to cover both, because I'm almost done. A lot of bug fixes in GLTF. The import and exporter, it's there were so many fixes that if you had any issues before, you should check it out. You should try it again. And also, if you have a NVIDIA graphics card such as the 1080s, or like the 10 series or the 20s series, like a 2060, 2080, and you were rendering it with CUDA on Windows, and you were having subpar rendering speeds, then that should be fixed. There is a performance improvement that it should be, not improvement, but a fix actually. So you should get better performance there. There was a bug basically. The other fix, for example, the mask tools that was changing the UI. Before we finish with the UI and pretty much everything that I have here, is the clip editor, which is another editor which was in under a lot of change. There were some proposals done to make the tool bar, but the tool system for the clip editor wasn't finished on time. So that was a bit of a pity, because there was no time to make it nice and make the tools and make them with the widget, and it was just too much to do. So the panel that used to be in the tool bar in 2.7, like for example for masking, I think is a masking tool area, and the options, the operators that were on the context menu, they're now back where they were in the past. So basically it's just good news that things are being brought back to the movie clip editor, and more deep work on the tool system will be done for 2.81. So yes, we should have like a way to tag things that are 2.81 so it's easier to follow. There's probably a way already in the developer.blender.org. And last but not least, this is mainly if you're making add-ons, if you make add-ons and you're using the, it's also because of a bit of nostalgia. Why? Because the name of some icons was changed. Some of them were removed and some of them are now using a newer. So there was a few icons that were called visible IPO, on or off. These icons are they're gone and they're replaced with the hide off or hide on. So this is very technical. This is an API level change that has recently been updated, but it's a bit of nostalgia because the IPO is the old, very old name that the graph editor used to have, the interpolation editor. So IPO, interpolation. So it was basically an icon to toggle on and off the curves. So a bit of nostalgia there, you know, we're missing parts of the Blender from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe not that much. There's probably people watching this that were not even born yet, when that icon existed. So old, feels so old. And that it's all for now. There is a few fixes. There are many fixes, crashes, performance improvements, mesh editing. Also, the display of the mesh should be improved. Also, there was a big performance regression when you had meshes without they're not connected, like loose edges around. There was a big performance hit in that has been fixed, among hundreds of others. Actually, literally hundreds. There were in the dev talk in the notes of last week. You can see here that were like 90 bugs last week, and then this week they're still being all the improvements are still being worked on, but there's so many. Another one, there was the translucent shader in Eevee. This, I think, is worth mentioning. Translucent shader in Eevee was broken when you were using ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion is pretty popular option, so translucent shaders will be broken in many cases. That has been fixed thanks to Clément. And also there has been the masks, I think, when sculpting were not showing up in Eevee when you were in sculpting, and that was fixed by Pablo Dobarro as well. So pretty nice. And speaking of our boy Pablo Dobarro, Mr. Sculpt Branch Amazingness, the last week, a few days ago, he published a blog post on the code.blender.org website, the legit place. Yes, no, not a forum, not a secondary independent website, the actual Blender official blog for development. This blog post is awesome because you can finally see everything that it has been worked on, the individual patches that were added, how it all started. So you're gonna get a big roundup of the news of the things that's changed. This work on this branch now is like out of this world. It's gonna take Blender to really the next level. Really, it's gonna put it up with the big guys. And it all started mainly about the brush cursor, just changing the brush cursor. So it's very nice to go through it and see how Pablo took the existing sculpting and took it to the next level, one by one, with the help of the community, also by providing feedback and testing things. The list here is huge. You can start with the brush cursor. You can even see the thread he's linking here, and you can see the amount of love that he got. And it started in August, and yes, last year. Then since then, there has been a lot of fixes in the curves. The remeasure, that's insane with OpenVTV. It's super fast, and sculpting vertex color, you can use vertex colors as masks. So it's kind of like a polygroup kind of a thing, because you can just pick a color and set it as a mask. So that's insane. Then the mesh, the mask, the color filters, you can blur things, you can do like you can paint with a gradient. That is pretty neat. So I don't know if you've seen this video, but it's super nice. You can use paint a mask basically and apply effects to that mask. For example, here it's applying this effect only on a certain mask. I don't know if you get to see the color difference, but you should see it up here. So very nice, applying effects and like modifying the mesh. Super neat. Then the transform tool. So this is basically how you would pose a mesh. So you start kind of modeling with sculpting. You can add make holes in it. That no, not make holes, but make draw a mask, extrude, and then if I'm not wrong, he's now like gonna select it and start transforming usually. So it's like a transform tools when you are when you have your already sculpted. So this is really something that wasn't possible in Blender, and it's insane. The list goes on and off, but you will see, here's the posing in a much better seen example. See, just make a mask, invert it, and then bam, pose the arm. Isn't that crazy? So this is insane. The auto masking, then other features. The merging the branch, here's where you can see how the merging should go on. There's also a bit more talk on the technical side. Remember, this is the code blog, so it's also gonna go into technical talks. But the great thing is that you can test these changes. They're being made on a branch. They're not gonna be part of Blender 2.80 because it's too late for such a big changes, but they are in the first line to be added for 2.81, at least the smaller ones that are not completely breaking the whole Blend or mesh system. You will find here towards the end that there is intention of how to proceed, right? One of the big things people complain is the lack of support for dense meshes in Blender. So how to work around that, maybe a new mesh system has to be implemented only for sculpting. So it's a pretty nice read. You should check it out. It's in code.blender.org. That being said, I am gonna move to the questions. Is everything okay here? I feel like I'm talking. I thought I wouldn't have anything to talk about. We're already halfway. Awesome. Pixelogic will buy you out to Pablo Navarro. Well, let's hope not. It already happened in the past, not with Pablo, but there was not gonna drop names, but there were developers that were working on interesting stuff, and then they got more interested in other softwares, unfortunately. But that was many years ago. And nowadays, actually, I think that if you're working for Blender stuff, it's kind of cooler even in a way, because you have so much support from the community that the reward you get is much more than if you were just doing something closed sourced somewhere in a company and you never can say what you did or how you did it, or you don't get the feedback from thousands of people. Like if you go to Graphical in the Blender.community website, if you go to graphical community, you'll probably not get such support and people checking out your work so much. In like you put it out now and then tomorrow you get people talking about it. Or like in this case, this Sculpt branch in Blender for Windows has over 7,000 downloads. Just this one here. There is an animation now, it's also a version updated. There's all the Summit of Code branches, like the Bevel profile, the OpenXR, the NPR branch is here, so you should check it out. There's so much to play. How do people do things nowadays? Why watching Netflix when you have like dozens of blenders, different blenders to try to play with? So nice. Such a times we live on, right? This would be crazy back back in the days. So right, there is 12 comments here, 18 comments here. So this one was made 4 hours ago. So I'm gonna start here and then I'm gonna jump to the other one. There were some feedback on people. I've in the past I've just been rushing on the live stream. It's making live streams is exciting in a way. You lose track of time. You get a bit nervous. So I would always start from the top, and the first questions that were asked, which are actually on the bottom, I didn't have time to answer. So that was not really fair at all. So I'm gonna go through these ones from the top, the ones that are voted, because it means that people are actually more interested in this one, and then I'm gonna go down. So 2 questions. LePC asks, since Blender is starting adding process ID to the end of autosave files, my temporary folder has grown to 40 gigs. To prevent this, there could be a limit to how many autosave versions of a file you can have. Temporary file, because on Windows it doesn't auto, I think on Linux, at least on the more popular the distributions, it gets, every time you reboot, it gets wiped away. In this case, actually, yeah, it's grown to 40 gigs. That's an issue, but it's a trade-off, right? Like, how much do you rather save your files or rather not? Prevent a limit to how many autosave versions of a file you can have. The thing is how to detect which one is that file, because it's just a different process. It's the same file. How to keep track of, how do you know it's the same file? The blend file is different, so the MD5, the unique identifier of that is already different. So 7 days left for the official Blender 2.8? No, it's not. It doesn't work like that. When you say July, it's not gonna be the 1st of July. It would be crazy, but I would say 7 days. No, we're still working on the manual and the features page, so better not to go so fast. But let's give it a few more, the 2 or 3 weeks, or more on the 3-4 weeks plan, I would say. Second question, is there any merge plan for any of the Summer of Code branches? Merge plans? No merge plans until they're not finished, until you don't, until the code is not there. The mentors are now working, like the core developers are now working on Blender itself, so there's no a lot of time to review the code before it can merge into actual Blender, right? There's no plan for that yet. You have to see how the quality of the code is and spend quality time going through the changes before putting it into main core Blender. Remember that Blender is getting big. It's getting much bigger than it used to, and it's attracting a lot of developers from studios, like people that are used to some other kind of coding or styles, or so it really, now the review process is going to be more strict to get code into Blender, which is a good thing. It only means good quality code, means usually understandable code. Can we call the developers if we want something? Call the developer like on the phone? No, and I'm glad of that. Some developers have Twitter accounts, but they're personal accounts. Don't abuse that. They also have a life. If you look at the commit logs, they commit on the weekends. So try and be nice. Ask, make yourself heard by asking things nicely. Make videos about it. Get together with other people to make art on how things will improve, and that, I think that will be the best way to work. Imagine if Pepeland or for Grease Pencil, he was just like go and call someone like, hey, do you want to make a 2D animation Blender? No, he actually made the art and made all the use cases. So that's a good way to get things going. Will Blender 2.8 get spiral mesh? So what is a spiral mesh? I'm not sure what is a spiral mesh, but there are plenty of add-ons for doing that, including built-in add-ons that are already shipping with Blender. The Dragon asks, hi, love the show. Here are my questions. When you quit Blender, you get the option to save. Why can't we use the arrow keys or the tab? This was already asked last week, and it's just because it wasn't coded. So I think I asked you to, or you or someone else to post it on the, it looks like like a how would you call it, like a paper cut, something that it would be nice to have, but it's like not like the end of the world, and it would be nice to have a list of those, so developers, even new developers, can jump in and check it out and just work on those easier low-hanging fruits that improve the quality of life a lot. So hola Ton. Hola Ton. Great show. That's so strange, somebody called Ton speaking to me in Spanish. All right, using Eevee, will there be how to set a panoramic cameras equirectangular? Not for the time being. I don't know if any planning now, but it's expected in the future. I've heard great things. Hello, will you review topics in PaperCut subform before the release? Not before the release, because the release is about making Blender stable. The PaperCuts are, some of them are maybe simpler things. Maybe if it's a paper cut about a wrong tooltip, well, yes, those, yes, but no, not for the bigger things, because the idea is to have Blender out as soon as possible and as stable as possible. Next, Frostcrack Studio asks, the tilde button doesn't work on all type of keywords. Why do you use it? Because I'm not sure exactly why. It's very close in the English keyboard, which is widely used. It's not everywhere, but there, yeah, I'm not sure. I think it maps to other keys. It was used in 2.7 as show all layers, I think. So it should be the same. So I don't know why we're getting more people now than we used to get in the past talking about this one feature. But yeah, I understand. In the Spanish one is ñ, it's a weird key even. New format, Blender Chat Live. Let's chat live. I would actually have a bit more like a talking to people live, like doing talking to maybe people in the industry working on with Blender, but live, getting your questions. So all right, next, hi, question for a view. For Blender uses only one processor core, if I understood correctly. Is there any plan to speed up the viewport, make it use all the cores? For example, I have an RTX, and when I enter edit mode of an object, it is really slow. Yeah, there are parts that are really hard to do multi-threaded. This should be solved eventually when we moved to Vulkan instead of using OpenGL. Move to the newer, more modern Vulkan. Notes. Hola, Capitan. Why can't we reset the 3D cursor in UV editor? That it's not there. Well, it sounds like an easy operator to make. It sounds like a missing feature. So could you make it into a paper cut, please? When I mean paper cut, I mean the forum here. Paper cuts in the user feedback forum under devtalk.blender.org. Moving on. Will Eevee support material override? It's not for 2.8, but it's planned for the future, because it's in cycles, and it should be, everything should be there. Most of the things should match, the ones that make sense, like in this case, and also with the collection overrides in 2.81, it should be there. There's no way, no reason why not. Your web pages need a dark mode switch. Which web pages? We have a dark mode here, toggle theme. We have which you can change, and then it becomes bright again. Which other web pages? Let me know. Like Blender.org now. Blender.org should have a one. It's not a community. It's a software page. Then the code blog. Then which other website are we missing? Which link should we use? This one or the other one? Either. I'm gonna read from both. I think you need to use the URL to make this thread correctly. I tried and it worked. Is there any chance that there will be have an edit poly modifier just as 3ds Max? I'm not familiar with the feature, but I am with the polymetric modeling. Subserve. Interesting. Why did the light turn on? Go away, light. Bam, there. I'm not familiar with this, but if it's like a non-destructive modeling, then this should be possible when we have everything nodes, that project that it's around the corner. Gary asks, this just time came up a few minutes ago. I believe Pedro was in London for the Blender day there. Not sure if that will affect whenever, because people are talking if he was if he was if he was gonna make this or not. So yes, Pedro, I think it's the first time somebody calls me Pedro, but I understand, you know, Pedro and Pablo, that's the name of the Flintstones in Spanish. They're called Pedro and Pablo, Pedro Picapiedras. So that's very nice, thank you. All right, next let's move on to the next pack of questions. I still have some time, so is everything okay? I'm gonna try to keep an eye on both. The thing is, I have a screen here and a screen here, so I have to look in the middle, and I should actually move the questions down here. Actually, I have you here in a floating window, and I'm gonna put it here next to this window, and you don't see it, no? Right, oh, awesome, interesting. All right, so I can keep an eye on both, like a chameleon. Samba says, hey Pablo, I got a question. Why in Blender there is no login like in Photoshop, so we can save our settings, short keys, and log in from other devices and still have them? You know what? There is. However, there is also the rule, the rule that Blender should not need internet to work and should never connect to the internet ever unless you click on a thing and expect it to do something, something online. So with that in mind, Blender should always work offline, no matter where you are, and it should always work on a floppy, not on a floppy disk, unless you have 100 floppy disks, but also on on a pen drive, on a USB stick. So all right, let's continue. The other question, got a bit distracted because I saw Mitch Antista passing by, and I forgot I wanted to ask him to be here in the live stream. He's actually teaching a course here at the Blender Studio, but I think they finished right on time, so I didn't have the time to do it. He's doing the migration course here, so it would be having so nice to have him over to chat. So all right, next question is, I'm gonna give it a think here. Oh, also, okay, long story short, that's why Blender doesn't want to connect to the internet. However, you can still do it. You can have the Blender, actually inside of Blender, like here, you can connect to the internet. You can have Blender ID login. So if you go to the preferences, you will find a add-on called Blender ID authentication. This comes with Blender, comes built in Blender, and then you can log in, log out, and just keep yourself updated here. This has been updated with Blender 2.8, and if you only log in the Blender ID, you gain nothing. Blender will just be logged in, but this add-on is there because it can be used by other add-ons that use a Blender ID authentication to pull out things from the cloud. For example, the Blender Cloud add-on. So the Blender Cloud add-on, it's a free add-on, which with some parts that are free and some parts that are covered by the Blender Cloud subscription, the official Blender service for training and for textures, assets, and stuff. The part that is free is exactly what you're asking. So it is possible, what you say here, it's possible to save your settings, shortcuts, and log in from other devices and still have them. Yes, that is possible. It's called Blender Sync. So it's a setting, it's a preference, it's a feature from the Blender Cloud add-on, where you can basically just, once you are logged in, so in the cloud, you should see here the settings. Okay. It's broken on my Blender because I think I didn't install the last one, but once you have it, because I was testing it last week actually, it's in the Blender Cloud HDRI. I made a video, this is me, on Thursday, so weird to see me, but I made this video on Thursday where I show you how you can get any texture from the Blender Cloud or from your own libraries in Blender. So you basically just, I don't know if you've seen it already, but basically I just click on a texture, download it, and then I can apply it and use it as a background texture. So if you haven't already, check out this video. It's super, well, I mean, I made it. I shouldn't say that, but yeah, it's super interesting. It shows in 10 minutes how you can use textures from the Blender Cloud or your own textures to do whatever inside of Blender, and it uses your Blender ID. So if you have a Blender Cloud subscription, it will just work. Hey Pablo, will Blender.Today finally support GPU in Mac OS? Yes, yes, it should support already. Some, not all of them, but it should, depending on the model. But yes, it should. Does Blender use RTX cores in ray tracing, rendering, in Eevee, or in cycles? No, not yet. Is using render view? Yes, the regular cores of CUDA cores of your graphics cards are being used. So even with RTX graphics card, but that's the same support you get with the other graphics cards. There is no special ray tracing yet working in that kind of processing. Sculpt mode branch is getting recognition. Yes, of course. How come it's not getting recognition? It's just amazing. It will get recognition. It is getting recognition. You see the amount of love it's getting everywhere. So all right, let's double Pablo all the way. Because I had gee, does anyone know Captain Dissolution? Who doesn't know Captain Dissolution? He's the best presentation at the Blender conference ever. He has made it last year. So if you haven't already, Google Blender conference Captain Dissolution. It's awesome. All right, so this, okay, I already answered all the ones with the points. Let's go to the bottom and start again. Prior to big projects like Animation 2020, well, does Blender team collect ideas from right-click select? Yes and no. The collections are like the ideas from right-click select are they're inspiring, right? Some of them they need polishing, some of them they're like super obvious. It's like, how can we did we even think of that? So they are pointed out by the community, right? They put in dev talk, for example. So they are actually being implemented quicker or faster, and some of them get more attention than others when they are even before releasing 2.0 the final release. But the idea is to have like a paper cut, like a kind of sprint at some point where the ideas from right click select then maybe can be moved to an actual task in Fabricator to tackle them. There is already in the developer .blender.org a paper cuts list, and some of them were tackled, not all of them though. Alondande says, hey dear Pablo, just to be clear, I'm not here to complain, but to point out what needs to improve is possible. It's okay, it's okay. Complaining is fine. That's how we get things, how life gets things done, right? You need to complain. Otherwise, doctors, if you were asking a doctor all politely, like, hey, I'm not here to complain, but it would be possible if you could improve my back. As a pro to the animator, I use different animation softwares, so I wonder if there is a chance for Grease Pencil devs to add an extra brush engine, just like Kriya have over 8 or 9. That doesn't sound like a walk in the park, but it's definitely something to keep in mind. I know the Grease Pencil team wants to improve the whole brush engine system, something that can use pixels and instead of only vectors, and it can look a bit more natural here and there. The is more question is the same. Yes, any 2D animator claims asks that the Grease Pencil brush feels wrong. Yeah, it's a different approach, and the idea is to improve the brush system in the future, near future. Let's hope that there is one developer working, the main developer, Pablo Vazquez, is working on it, and there's also Charlie Jolie helping out recently, but that's pretty much it. It will be awesome, and I think it will happen, hopefully, that Grease Pencil will attract more new developers, like for other areas in Blender, like 2D and brush system, because it also would be nice if that brush system could also work with texture painting, right? Not only do it for grease pencil, but it should work also in texture painting, vertex paint, weight paint. Why not? No, maybe not. But or maybe yes. I mean, who knows? What are the where is the roof? In Spanish we say donde está el, where is the roof? Yeah, where is the top? Where is the limit? That's the word. All right, Alt-Shift-O is a pie menu for setting origin. Why not just make that official map for it instead of disturbing the old workflow? I still have to see, like, why having a pie menu for set origin? Yeah, maybe it could work. But still, Alt-Shift-O, it's impossibly hard to press, actually. Well, you can do it with the other Alt, but I kind of like Shift-O more. And then really the proportional editing type is not used as often, I think, as setting the origin. But I didn't know about that, so I'm gonna check it out. Yay, thank you. Real Animate Leo. Any news about the vertex color alpha channel workflow on an Eevee node? No. Any news regarding? Right now, if we paint vertex color, it's difficult to see the result of the color vertex color alpha channel, and there is no way to use it on material node. No, I wasn't aware of that. Is it a bug, an actual bug? Like, is it expected to work like this? Hard for me to follow that question, but yes, I should be. All right, next. Oh, Zebran is there watching. Zebran is a developer that works on Alembic and also the Blender Cloud, and even the Blender Cloud add-on. And I had a crash on when I was using it now, and I think it might be because I have a very old, like last week Blender. So let's see, Cloud add-on. This is the 1.13.4, and if you get the latest one, it's in the cloud services is 0.5. Of course, I'm outdated. Gee, I'm like a old, outdated. I could rather even bother using 2.8. Use 2.4. All right, next question by Don. Hola. Again, this question was answered in the other thread. Two first questions. Mantafloor, Blender 281 or 82? I really think it's going to be 281 because it's near ready pretty much, and it's been ported. It's been tested with 2.7 for a while. 2.8 also the porting already happened. So it's you can even test it if you go to graphical in the blender.community. That's ancient. Yes, Siren, that's ancient. If you go here to graphical, you will find that there is a already Mantaflow branch available. So if I search for Mantaflow, I should see there is one build here, then 4 builds actually. 4 builds. Awesome. So last Wednesday was updated for Mac, and then in May, 28th of May was updated for Windows. So yeah, it's been worked on. Next question. Real-time physics bullet, Blender 281 or 282? I'm not sure. That one I'm not sure how to do real-time physics. It's interaction mode that also unfortunately got a bit left behind. All right, delete. People migrated to the other thread and more. Other plans to add render-only view on 3D view window, like in 2.7. Render-only view. Yeah, render-only view is the hiding of the overlays, which it's already a shortcut in Blender 2.8, which is Alt-Shift. I always know the shortcuts that I press because of the shape my hand makes. So this is the mashed up fingers shortcut is Alt-Shift-Z. And or Z if you're American. This is how you can hide the overlays, which is basically the same as pressing the overlay icon here in the header, or also the name that it used to have is only render. All right, next. Oh, that I got them all. 14 questions. Let's see if I refresh. And there's 17 questions. Okay, let's try to tackle them. I have a full 2 minutes left. Hi, Pablo. How can I switch the hands? Do you mean the left and right? Or your actual hands? That you're gonna need some help from from a professional. But I can help you with switching the right click to left click. You can do it if the first time you open Blender. You can do it from a splash screen. It's gonna let you choose. Or also the you can change it anytime from the key map section, select with left or right. That should be it. That should be everything. And the last one is, where is the cell fracture add-on? It should, maybe it's not yet ported, but it should be there, I think. Or you can use the fracture modifier branch, which I believe was also a build fracture. Yes, fracture modifier, 19th of May. There's a branch where you can use it, and it's way better than the add-on. So check it out. Yes, so many branches. Awesome. I'm so happy that the graphical is back again, and the community is making it grow so fast, and it's actually building Blender and sharing it and putting it on a server for everybody to play with. So nice. Thank you, community. You're awesome. You see, this is why I called it community hard, because all of these things wouldn't happen. Like, people are using their time to build Blender and test it, and you don't have to you actually have to read a little bit, and you also have to build Blender with the special settings so it can be shared, and you have to put it online, you have to wait for it, and then yes, it's just amazing. So many people just helping out of their own good hearts. Then all right, so there was 17 questions. Let's see, 18 now. Are there any plans for more procedural animation systems? Will animation nodes or anything like become part of the main branch? Yes, animation, everything nodes is coming up, and animation nodes is still here, and it's updated for Blender 2.8. And again, it's in graphic all. So you can find the animation nodes 2.8 for Windows, which is probably the one you're looking for. Otherwise, there are also versions for Linux and Mac available here, if I'm not wrong. Or you can compile your own because it's open source, like every add-on. We're not gonna bring up that topic now, but that is all for these questions. And then here there is one more question that dropped by. At what time is the Blender.Today live stream on YouTube? It depends on where you live, but it's a 5 p.m. in Central Europe time, which is 4 p.m. No, 5 p.m. Central Europe time is but we're in the summer. How do you add this? Is it summer time? Does it work? Yes, it works. In summertime is when it's a different hour, but basically it's 5 p.m. here in Amsterdam. So if you say 5 p.m. in Amsterdam, you're gonna get the time. In 5 p.m. in Argentina, you get, it's 5 p.m. here. Do you know that? It's awesome. The Google, that you can actually just Google times or use the time and date as a table where you can set it up. It's every week at the same time. And with that good note, I'm gonna call it a day. It's 6, a bit after 6. So how are you guys doing in the chat? And let's hang out here. I don't know why it feels so long. I spent 3 days in London having fun, meeting people and chatting about community. Isn't it awesome? There was many people that were not aware of these videos. I don't know if I should be I rarely tweet about it even, or Facebook about it, but how to get the word more out there. It's a great addition to the Blender community that we can have the time to invest in make these and get in touch with people and show how Blender and open source in general works, because I hope Blender serves as an example for Blender users that are not familiar with open source, that Blender is not the only one in here. There are other open source softwares that can use that have a community, a very vibrant, usually very welcoming community that have a passion for using software that you can actually share, and you don't have to worry about, hey, I was showing it to a friend, or studying, or improving it even. So that's the magic. That's where the magic happens. All right. Thank you, Peter. This show is awesome. You are awesome. Like in the Keanu Reeves note, it's breathtaking here. Oh, actually, there was a breathtaking. Blender is breathtaking. No, you're breathtaking. So, all right. Like, I'm not gonna do a Keanu here. Let's call it a day. Thank you so much for staying until the end of this show. I hope you liked it. It was a bit more relaxed. There was more time to spend it in the questions. And let's meet again next week, and let's do it. When is next week? It's July already. Oh my gosh, we entered the month of the release of Blender 2.80. Remember, 2.80 is not the end of the Blender development. 2.81 is already gonna be packed with features. Please test everything you find in Blender 2.8, 2.80 now. Download it. Go to blender.org/download. You're gonna find the beta there. Test it, and let's make it a calm release, so developers don't have to like find out there's so many bugs that were not reported in 2.80, and then we need to do 2.81, no, 2.80A or B and C, and then wait more. So if we don't report bugs now, it's gonna be worse for us, as in for us, the community, everybody else later. So let's test it. Let's polish this guy so it comes out, and we can use it later. Have fun with it. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you again at the same time and at the same place with the same, or even better, song that we that we hear every week. Watch out if you are wearing headphones, because it's in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gracias, community. I'll see you again next time. Same place, same everything. Ciao. Dun, 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 dun.